Do you ever consider yourself as someone who is flexible? Like, can you adapt when things change or don't go your way? Have you ever thought about the ways we're going to need to change and adapt in the future? Because we know a lot will change with jobs and the likes of AI, but what about where we're living and climate change? Like, how are we planning for more extreme weather events, heavier rainfalls, longer droughts, more brutal bushfires? Brisbane City Council engineer Alan Hoban told the ABC this week that what used to be considered a worst case scenario for global warming's impact on rainfall is now looking more likely. And that, of course, affects our cities and flood planning. I'm of the firm belief that the only way to know where we're going is to see where we've been. So I had a chat with Dr. Margaret Cook, a historian at Griffith University.
I've written about Brisbane River flooding, but I've also written a book on disasters in Australia and New Zealand. So flooding is a really big problem in Australia, as are bushfires, which was the other disaster we particularly looked at.
Cook told me her research shows that we're going to experience shifts in our weather that we're not used to.
But with flooding, the thing with that and climate change is that our weather patterns are already changing and they're going to continue to change a lot more. And my research has shown that we're going to get a whole lot of different changes that we're not going to be used to. So in the south, our droughts will become more intense, which actually means it sounds like that means our ground will be drier. So therefore, it will be better for floods. It actually is almost the opposite because we'll have lost the vegetation. And so we'll get more problems with erosion and runoff. And so rather than soaking in, it might actually run off more. So it's sort of counterintuitive in some ways that I think that drier ground will be better. It's not, because we'll have lost that vegetation level. And all research shows that vegetation does help with flooding because it slows it down. It changes that water flow.
But what about floods being described as once in 100-year events? Is that even accurate anymore?
One of the biggest problems is the 1 in 100 year term, because it's actually 1 in 100% chance. They talk about in Australia, the 1% chance that in any given year you'll get a flood like that or bigger, right? And it was introduced in the 1930s from America as sort of a shorthand to give you an idea to measure floods. So you get a bit of an idea, oh, this is going to be a big one or a small one. But I actually think the terminology is actually dangerous because I'm not joking. People think they've got 99 years between those floods. And that's just not true. For example, looking at history, in 1893, Brisbane got 2 floods that size in a month. In February, they got the two of the biggest floods Brisbane's ever had. So I think, that terminology is dangerous anyway, because it creates a false sense of security, but also it is becoming increasingly irrelevant. Scientists are already all modelling up floods. They talk about probable maximum floods, and those maximums are getting higher and higher. So yes, you're absolutely right. What used to be a 1 in 100 is probably going to become far more frequent. So I think that's a second good reason to get rid of that terminology.
So, what does she think we need to do?
Well, the science is good. We have a lot of really good science. What we don't have is the political will to embrace it. So that's what we really need. We need community engagement with the science to trust it and respond to it. And don't sort of deny it, because it doesn't help. Because if we know from the science that we are going to be looking at more intense rain and we're going to be looking at more frequent flooding in some areas, we need to actually respond to that. But I think that's an opportunity. I really think humans are smarter than that.